Hey guys, Random and Shades here, exercising my first Amendment Rights vlog style. Happy final season, everyone. Now, do you guys remember at the end of my favorite Alter Bridge songs video when I said this? And two, don't expect me to make too many videos like this for other bands I love. I'm not ruling out the possibility, but I would only really want to do videos like this for bands that are really special to me, and ones that I'm able to put together a varied and diverse enough list for as far as their albums go, so don't expect me to make videos like this for too many other bands. Well, today is one of those occasions. This video is basically going to be a combination of my Alter Bridge video and the last video I posted, as the countdown list I have for you today is all about my favorite musician of all time, as well as my biggest musical influence, the guitar virtuoso known only as Joe Satriani. Let me take you back to 2007. I was 13 years old and was only just starting to develop a taste in music. One Saturday afternoon in April, my uncle, technically he's a close family friend, but we call him Uncle, is visiting and he's raving about a concert he and my aunt had just seen the previous night. It was the 2007 G3 tour that featured Paul Gilbert, John Petrucci, and of course Joe Satriani. G3, or sometimes G4 for those that don't know, is a tour that Satriani organized where he takes 2 or 3 guitarists on tour with him and they all play a short set and then jam together over some classic rock songs. My uncle just could not get over how amazing these 3 guitarists were, and Satriani was his favorite of the 3, so he spent the next half hour or so playing clips on YouTube of Satriani. This is like nothing I'd ever heard in my life. Fast and melodic guitar-centered instrumental music with a unique approach to guitar. I was mesmerized and needed to get my hands on this music, so I bought his best-known album, Surfing with the Alien, on iTunes, loved the fuck out of it, and then took a deep dive into the rest of his discography. I have a lot of albums in my iTunes collection, but Satriani is to this day one of very few artists where I have all of his albums on me, and his discography consists of 16 albums at this point in time, so imagine how much of my library is comprised of his music, and that's not even including other things he was a part of, like the songs The Werewolf of Wisteria by John 5, a bunch of the tracks on Alice Cooper's album Hey Stupid, including Feed My Frankenstein, Break Like the Wind by Spinal Tap, Screamin' Head and Insectamungus by Jordan Rudess, and of course the supergroup Chickenfoot, which also includes Sammy Hagar, Michael Anthony of Van Halen, and Chad Smith of Red Hot Chili Peppers, aka Will Ferrell's secret brother. What's more is that listening to Satriani's music made me want to get better at guitar. By 2007, I had only been playing guitar for about a year, and I don't remember being particularly great back then. But my becoming a fan of Satriani is where I pinpoint where exactly I started to notice myself improve. He has such an interesting playing style, and to this day there's only so much I understand about it. It's very whammy-centered, along with utilizing things like harmonics, pick tapping, and tapping in general, use of a whammy pedal, and other such things. This is why I consider Satriani to be my greatest musical influence and a staple on my style as a guitarist, because so much about it is directly attributed to him. I might consider myself to be an average guitarist, but with as much freaky technique as I know, you can tell that comes from Satch. He might not be known for having an ultra-speedy style like Yngwie Malmsteen or Buckethead, but he combines just the right amount of speed with such a sweet texture and feel for the instrument, and places such an emphasis on composition over just shredding to shred. And that's a big reason as to why he has the title of being my favorite musician, whereas Alter Bridge is my favorite band. Continuing on with my story, I'm going to jump ahead a year later to my 15th birthday in October of 2008. One of my gifts that year that came from my uncle was VIP tickets to see Joe Satriani. I was going to be going on a field trip the day of the show and wasn't going to have any homework, so the timing of this was wonderful. I met Satriani, learned a good bit about him, and of course got my first guitar, which was an Epiphone SG autographed by him. This is one of the greatest days of my life. I mention all this because the day this video is being uploaded, October 14th, 2018, is the 10-year anniversary of when I met him. So to celebrate, I'm going to share with you my all-time favorites of his songs, the ones I always find myself going back to, the ones I consider the essentials out of his 16-album discography. Like with most of my countdown lists, I couldn't just include 10 songs. I'm sorry, I just can't. And I'm not going to act like all of his albums are getting equal representation, so before I start, I'm going to rank Satriani's albums from least favorite to favorite. My least favorite would be Black Swans and Wormhole Wizards from 2010, if only because it gets the least attention from me, then Strange Beautiful Music from 2002, then Time Machine from 1993, then his first album, Not of This Earth from 1986, then the self-titled from 1995, then Shockwave Supernova from 2015, then Professor Sachafunculus and the Mysterion of Rock from 2008, then Engines of Creation from 2000, then his most recent album from 2018, What Happens Next, then Is There Love in Space from 2004, then Crystal Planet from 1998, then Unstoppable Momentum from 2013, then The Extremist from 1992, then Super Colossal from 2006, then Flying in a Blue Dream from 1989, 1989, and as cliched as this might come across, my favorite of his albums is his 1987 breakthrough, Surfing with the Alien, since it's the album I have the most history with. So now that that's out of the way, let's begin my top 15 favorite Joe Satriani songs. As a disclaimer, I'm going to be using a lot of musical terminology and guitar terminology throughout the video, so I apologize to any of my viewers that aren't guitarists if you have a hard time understanding me. If you thought I sounded full-on nerd in the last video, expect that times 10 here. Number 15. The year is 1989. Thanks to his #1 guitar protege, Steve Vai, who at the time had reached mainstream success playing in David Lee Roth's band, talking him up in interviews, Satriani got his big break in 1987 with Surfing with the Alien. The way he followed that album up was interesting. Flying in a Blue Dream has 18 tracks, and a third of them have vocals, which isn't exactly something he's really known for doing. Out of all the tracks with vocals, my favorite would definitely be Big Bad Moon. This is one of the first songs not from Surfing with the Alien that I remember listening to back when I first took that huge dive into his repertoire, and I remember jamming the fuck out to it. I love shuffle feel songs, and it not only has a wicked heavy tone, but it's also got a really bluesy feel, what with the song being in E minor. And this is especially the case in the second solo break, where Satriani plays a harmonica solo, then followed by a slide guitar solo, before then putting the slide down and going nuts. I remember being kinda confused when I first heard Satriani sing here. I thought, wait, there's vocals, huh? I wouldn't exactly say his voice is spectacular, but he can carry a tune, and the lyrics are pretty simple, talking about how the night looks dangerous and the moon looks epic. But one thing that always gets me is between the verses and the solo breaks when he says in this deep voice, "But I like it." But I like it. Somebody's definitely a night owl. My only real qualm is that I wish the solos went on longer, but other than that, the song rocks, and while I might not be the craziest about Satriani's songs with vocals, Big Bad Moon is always a nice jam. By the way, since I mentioned Steve Vai was Satriani's #1 guitar prodigy, I should share an interesting fact about how he started out. He taught guitar to a bunch of guitarists who went on to become prominent in rock and metal. Apart from Steve Vai, he also taught guitar to the likes of Larry Lalonde of Primus, Alex Skolnick of Testament, Andy Timmons of Danger Danger, and even Kirk Hammett of Metallica. Yeah, he's that much of a fucking wizard. Number 14. Here we have my favorite track from The Extremist. Why? Now, why do I like this song? It's got a funky feel, some interesting layering in the instrumentation, and some awesome harmonies in the main melody, and they sound really sweet in the faster parts. It's worth pointing out the main general structure of Satriani's songs. Most of them have a structure that goes as intro, melody 1, melody 2, sometimes a repeat of the 2 melodies, solo, and then a final run of the melodies. The solo here has some fine shredding in E minor, and also employs some nice usage of the wah pedal. Why is an enjoyable jam and is in good company on The Extremist with songs like Friends and Summer Song. Number 13. It's not all that surprising that Crowd Chant is highly recognizable. A lot of sports teams play the song, and it also appears in the soundtrack to the game Madden NFL 11, as well as the intro to a show on MLB Network called Quick Pitch, so this is the only Satriani song my little brother is at all familiar with. This song was tailor-made for basically any live event because it relies heavily on audience participation. The 2 verses center around a call and response between Satriani playing some licks in C-sharp minor and the crowd repeating the melody back. And the second verse is really endearing, where Satriani does some whammy trickery and fast tremolo picking, and the crowd responds with some incoherent bullshit. Of course, the melody towards the end is also fun to sing along to. This is the only song from Super Colossal that I see getting performed live consistently. And it's not very hard to see why. As a whole, the song's a lot of fun. This is why it sticks out to me not only on Super Colossal, but in Satriani's discography as a whole. Number 12. Ah, this song. Always With Me, Always With You is another popular favorite of Satriani's songs. It's a slow 3/4 waltz ballad in B major. The main melody is really sensitive and beautiful, especially the second time around when it's played an octave higher than the first time. But the part I always go crazy over is what happens after that. Satriani does a series of hammer-ons and pull-offs based around an open B string, and it's some of the fastest playing I've ever heard in a slow song. The way I'm describing it might make it sound out of place, but it fits so nicely on top of the progression. And it's followed up with some very soulful soloing before we we go back to the main melody. The overall sound is very romantic, and it leaves me with some very shiny imagery. This is one of my favorite tracks from Surfing with the Alien, and as popular of a staple as it is among Satriani's songs, it's definitely something that's been always with me since the beginning. Number 11. The way instrumental songs are titled might be even more confusing than the way post-hardcore songs are titled, but I always try to make sense out of it. And listening to this song, it should be very self-explanatory as to why it's called Circles. The song structure is basically a circle. It starts off with a couple clean riffs, then we crank it up for some E minor shredding, and then we go back to the clean melody. Maybe with the dynamic shifts, it'd be more fitting to call this an oval, but hey, it's still circular. I used to not be as big on the clean parts and would always just skip ahead to where the solo starts whenever I would listen to Circles, but over time it really grew on me to the point where I would sometimes find myself humming the melody. But when the solo comes in, damn is it explosive. It starts out super fast, and then when the chords change, we hear some melodic lines that aren't as fast. And the way the solo ends before we go back to the clean part is also neat with the use of some whammy squeals. It kinda comes off as jarring, but after that solo, I just feel too satisfied to care. Overall, great track from Surfing, but we have yet to get to my favorite from the album. Number 10. Here we have a more recent song from 2013's Unstoppable Momentum, Lies and Truths. When this album first came out, I was kinda skeptical because Satriani's longtime bassist and drummer Stu Hamm and Jeff Campitelli had departed from his backing band. Playing bass and drums on this album is Chris Chaney of Jane's Addiction and Vinnie Colaiuta, a famous session drummer who's worked with such notable people as Frank Zappa, Joni Mitchell, Sting, Billy Joel, Tori Amos, Alan Holdsworth, Ray Charles, John McLaughlin, Steely Dan, Stevie Nicks, Jeff Beck, and even Megadeth. A good bit of why Lies and Truths sticks out to me lies in Colaiuta. As simple as the C minor verse melody sounds, the syncopation in Colaiuta's drumming sounds funky as hell. I also like the keyboard fills played by Mike Keneally, who also plays rhythm guitar live and is actually a great guitarist in his own right. Even when the pre-chorus and chorus parts roll around and the music starts to pick up, the funky feel is still retained and it just sounds excellent. And the chorus melody sounds very atmospheric on top of this drive going on. And the solo. The fucking solo. That pick tapping played on top of those stops in the bass and rhythm guitar and that syncopated drumming, this is great! And of course, the portion of the solo played over the pre-chorus sounds awesome as well with some wah thrown in. The ending is also cool as hell with a sweet fill from Colaiuta into the final run through the main riff. This song fucking rules and would be my favorite on Unstoppable Momentum if it wasn't for something else. Also, listen to just how perfect the very end of this is. Number 9. Oh yeah, the awesome title track from 1998's Crystal Planet. The intro riff is cool as fuck, and the feel is so much fun. Like with Lies and Truths, the drumming sticks out to me as well as the bass playing. There's some cool rhythms throughout the song, and while I might not be the hugest on the melodies, the breaks as well as the middle solo are pretty crazy. When the intro riff is reintroduced, the drum fills from Jeff Campitelli are absolutely perfect. Then after the second time through the chorus melody, we get another part. Satriani introduces a new melody line that utilizes some hammer-ons and usage of the open B string. And the way it sounds over the drum beat is just splendid. It sounds so freaking catchy. As if this part of the song couldn't get any more wild, the solo he takes at this point that makes use of a bunch of hammer-ons and pull-offs on the B string is just nuts. Crystal Planet is bangable as hell and is without a doubt the highlight of the album. The album's named after the song for a reason after all. Also, it's worth noting that Angel Vivaldi did a pretty cool cover of the song featuring Dan Sugarman back in 2015, which is how I first discovered Sugarman. Doesn't Angel just totally do the cover art justice? Number 8. If this song sounds familiar to you guys, it's the song I used for my transition clip in my favorite instrumental songs video. You know how everyone likes to joke about how they need a prescription of more cowbell? The drums in the intro make the most perfect use of cowbell. It sounds great. I just wish that beat was used more throughout the song, but I digress. The Mystical Potato Head groove thing has a really catchy verse riff, and the melody that's played on top of it is pretty cool. The thing that always gets me about this song is the chorus melody. It's hard to describe what exactly I mean, so I'll show you a clip of how Satriani plays it. How the hell does he do that? It blows my mind so much every time I watch videos of him playing the song live, as well as the one time I saw him play it out of the 4 times I've seen him live. The solo is pretty awesome too, especially when he gets to the pick tapping part, and there are some parts that sound very Egyptian and mysterious, which I'm sure is where the mystical part comes from. The title of this song may be weird as fuck, and there may be some weird as fuck parts in this song, but it's definitely a standout for me. Number 7. Engines of Creation is a very underrated album of Satriani's in my opinion. The album's also the most experimental album he's ever released. How is it experimental? Satriani incorporated electronic music into his sound on this album. So given how this is the year 2000, you might think that this was Satriani trying to sell out or make his own version of Path of Totality before that album was even a thing. That's actually not the case. He manages to retain a lot of his style, so I hardly look at this as a departure from his classic sound. The song that best represents how he was able to bring both styles together in equal fashion and still sound cool, as well as my take for the best track on the album, would be Borg Sex. Satriani gets compared a lot to an alien or a robot,
or genetically altered humans, whatever, f you.
And to me, Borg Sex is basically the epitome of how much like a robot he can actually sound like. There is such an interesting use of synths, various effects, and of course the whammy pedal. The melodies and backing instrumentation might sound a bit repetitive, but man does this have an atmospheric and spacey feel, especially after the solo where Satriani alternates between playing in a high octave and a low octave that sounds rather slurred. I see this as a great portrayal of a male and female robot, that should be pretty easy to figure out which one's which, having a conversation with each other. And looking at the title of the song, we can only assume what the conversation is about. Engines of Creation might seem unconventional, but with a song as off-the-wall as Borg Sex on the album, my hope is that it at least sounds interesting to you. Number 6. 2004's Is There Love in Space has kind of an unfortunate legacy. I'm sure most people know it as being the album that contains the song If I Could Fly that Coldplay allegedly jacked the melody from for their hit Viva La Vida. And while that song's okay, it doesn't hold a candle to the haunting yet beautiful title track. These chords sound so mysterious, and the sound on the lead melodies sounds so intriguing. I love the use of wah in the first melody, and the really dissonant parts in both of the main melodies are really ear-catching. And of course, the solo is also pretty crazy sounding and kind of catches you off guard once it enters. The wah combined with the whammy jerkin gives us a fantastic solo that segues nicely into the chorus melody. There's even another solo played over the chords in the chorus, albeit with less distortion, that ends the song, and it's jazzy as hell, and it definitely left a lasting impression on me in wanting to incorporate some more jazzy elements into my guitar playing. Is There Love in Space is one of Satriani's most criminally underrated songs, and something I wish was given as much attention as his main staples like Surfing with the Alien, Always With Me, Always With You, Satch Boogie, and others. It's definitely of equal quality in my book. Number 5. This is a pretty one. The title track from Flying in a Blue Dream is another popular staple in Satriani's live sets, and it's one of those songs that never seems to lose its entertainment value the more I listen to it. This song is one of Satriani's dreamiest melodies and one of my favorite solos of his. The best parts are always played over that A-flat major chord. It really tricks your ear and plays with your expectation because it's a chord that isn't part of the C major scale that the song is written in, but holy damn does it sound beautiful. And the reverb on top of everything just leaves every moment of the song sounding so breathtaking. I always feel so relaxed listening to Flying in a Blue Dream, and it's a song I turn to a lot to calm my nerves in stressful situations. Maybe this is where the flying aspect comes from. I kind of picture myself on the magic carpet from Aladdin, soaring high above ground whenever this song comes on. I love this. The song also ends on a pretty sweet note as the main rhythm guitar part plays out while the lead guitar sends out some feedback sounds that sound strangely in key with the rest of the music. I hear a high E note in the feedback that sounds amazing over the chords. I mean, it is the 3rd degree in C major after all, so no wonder. If you want something dreamy and adventurous sounding, you cannot go wrong with Flying in a Blue Dream. It is without a doubt the most recognizable track on the album and something I think everyone should hear. Number 4. Cool Number 9 from the self-titled album is basically the only Satriani song I can kinda sorta play, quote, quote, quote. It was a song I dared to include a rendition of in my senior recital back in college because it left such an impression on me, and such an occasion was in need of a tribute to my greatest musical influence. I love the funky laid-back feel in the key of C minor. The drumming from Manu Katché is excellent, and the use of the whammy pedal is so crazy and perfect. Even the bridge, where the drums tap out and the chords sound dramatic, sounds really feel good. The sound on the self-title is noted for being more blues-tinged, but with a song like Cool Number 9, I again have a hard time viewing the album as being much of a departure from the classic sound. It's always a treat seeing this song performed live too, because everyone in the band is just having a ton of fun jamming out with each other. The live clip you see playing actually features a swell bass solo from Dave LaRue, who's also worked with people like Steve Morse and John Petrucci, as well as bands like Dixie Dregs, Planet X, and Flying Colors. Cool Number 9 is definitely the highlight of the self-titled album and is a fun time all around. Number 3. Redshift Riders is another underrated track of Satriani's and is my favorite track from Super Colossal. The driven nature of the song in the key of F sharp minor has the song sounding damn heavy, and the whammy usage in the chorus as well as the second verse melody is excellent. But the thing that's always enjoyable for me is when the song breaks down into a funky feel. The riff here is one of my favorite riffs of all time, and the solo Satriani takes over it is pretty cool. As we should come to expect from Satriani, there's a final run through the verse and chorus melodies, but we get a second solo after that over the chorus, and it sounds sweet as fuck. The song ends with a final playing of the funky breakdown riff, and my only qualm, like with Big Bad Moon, is that I wish it would go on longer because I just love that riff so much. Redshift Riders has just about everything you could want in a Satriani song, and it's definitely one of my favorite songs of his. Hell, it was a contender for my favorite song of his, but ultimately got beat out by the next two songs on the list the more I thought about it. Number 2. It's a crime that Satriani doesn't play this song live often. Out of all the awesome songs on Surfing with the Alien, Crushing Day is hands down my favorite. You might think that with the main melodies sounding so simple that the song's kind of underwhelming, but that's just the calm before the storm. Why? Because holy fuck, the solo is so fast and awesome. Especially during the final portion of the solo, where the rhythm guitar alternates between an E flat and F chord. There's hardly a moment in the solo that's slowed down, and it's just fantastic. And the way the solo ends before the final run through the verse melody just leaves you going, damn, man. As simple as the melodies are compared to the blazing solo, Satriani makes up for it by throwing in some trademark dive bombs and squeals. Crushing Day is one of the most excellent and perfect songs in Satriani's catalog, so what could possibly beat it out for my favorite? Answer. Remember what I said before about how skeptical I was about Unstoppable Momentum with regard to the lineup change in Satriani's band? This song blew my expectations out the water. The title track here blows my mind. In fact, that kind of relates to the biggest problem I have with Unstoppable Momentum. This is the first track on the album, and it starts on such a huge fucking bang that the rest of the tracks on the album, with the exception of Lies and Truths, just don't seem to match the quality of it, in my opinion. For one, the song's in 5/4. That's a time signature that you hardly see a lot of people outside prog writing. For two, the song's in my favorite key, F minor, and I like the chord progression in places like the chorus, and the harmonization in the melody there is nice. For three, Satriani sprinkles so much whammy pedal throughout the song, especially on the fast parts with pick tapping. He just wants the song to sound as crazy and over the top as possible. For four, I adore Vinnie Colaiuta's drumming, especially when he takes a fucking drum solo over the main riff to close out the song. Again, keep in mind, the song is in 5/4. That's not exactly the easiest time signature for a drummer to solo in, let alone as fast as Colaiuta on the song, or Marco Miniman in the case of the video being shown here. Holy freaking Jesus, Unstoppable Momentum is fucking insane. It brings so much to the table compared to other songs in Satriani's catalog, so it's without a doubt the most unique and standout song he's ever recorded, and it's without a doubt my all-time favorite Joe Satriani song of all time. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun making this video, and I hope I was able to intrigue some curiosity in checking out Joe Satriani's music if you haven't done so.